Okay, so I'm just going to have give you some help writing a program that when you click on a button, it asks you for a bunch of numbers, and then with that you can create or calculate the average of those numbers and maybe look for the highest number and the lowest number that were entered in the sequence. So I put a button here. When you click the button, it's just going to launch a bunch of input boxes. So if you watch this, if I click on it, it's going to ask me for some numbers. I'm just going to type in numbers. And when I want to exit, I'm going to type in -1. So -1 is the flag or the sentinel value for exiting this loop that goes as long as you want it. So it's not a fixed loop. It is a while loop where keep going while the number that you just entered is not the sentinel or the flag or the thing that helps you exit the loop. Let's take a look at the code. So just to start off simply, here's the button when it's clicked. I just made a constant for the flag, just so it's a bit more readable. Made it -1. That's because the numbers that I want to enter are positive numbers, let's say. I might have to change that depending on the application. If it's temperatures and maybe there can be negative temperatures, then that might change my flag, because I wouldn't want -1 to be the exit value, because obviously that could be a valid temperature. So I make a variable called number. It's an integer. I set up a do loop so I can just say right away go in at least one time to get one value from the user. My input box pops up and it says enter a number and use, I just joined on my flag in case I change my mind and want it to be -99 or something. It'll just populate it there. So my message would be enter a number and use -1 to exit. So basically all this is doing a do loop. It's checking if the number is not equal to the flag. If that's true, keep going. So it keeps going until it is the flag, and then it stops. So how do I, first of all, I guess, how do I get an average? Generally, I would need to have the total of about all the numbers, and I would need to know how many numbers there were. So maybe I'll start with the task of just counting how many numbers there were. So I could make a counter variable here. I could say dim count as integer, and I would need to start it off at 0. So I can count something, and in my loop, I'm just going to say count. I could do plus equal. Let's do that, plus equal 1. And then after, I'll just do a message box because I don't feel like going back and creating a whole new label. So messagebox.show, and I'll show count variables value. So yeah, why is it saying that? Message box is not a type. Don't know why it's doing that. Okay. All right, let's go back. Put a label on here. And we'll just say text in there and call it LBL count. So back to my program. Let's just say dot text equals count. Okay, so let's run this thing, see if it works. So enter numbers. So I'm gonna enter, I don't know, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. So it's 5 numbers so far, and then -1 to exit. And it says I entered 6 numbers. Well, why is that? Well, I did enter 6 numbers. The last one wasn't an actual number that I wanted to be counted. It was my flag or exit value. So maybe, well, I could subtract 1 because I know in order to get out, I always have to enter the flag. So I could just say count -1 here. The other thing I could do is I could write an if statement. So only count if it's not the flag. So let me do that way. So I could say if number not equal to the flag and count. Otherwise, I don't count it because it is the flag and I don't want that to be counted in my results. So let's run it again. What happens here? So let's just enter 1, 2, 3, and -1. It should say 3 values. So that's good. So that's fixed. So one thing at a time. So I've got it to count how many entries there were. That's called a counter. What I want to do now is I want to write an accumulator. So I want to total all the values. So I could make dim total as integer. And I also have to start that off at 0, so it has an initial value. And I could say total plus equal plus equal. And what I want to add to it is the number that they entered. So this is called an accumulator. Later. And that is only going to happen if the number that I entered is not the flag, which is a good thing. So I don't want it to add the -1. So that is a good thing that I made that if statement because it'll only count it, it'll only accumulate it if the number's not the flag. So let's run it again. We're getting there step by step, bit by bit. So let's add the numbers 1 plus 2 plus 3, and I'm going to say -1 to exit. I don't want that -1 added to the total though. So see if I did it right. 1 plus 2 should be 3, but it didn't add the last one. So I said 1 plus 2 plus 3. All right, so let's see what's happening here. Let's do total and run this. Okay, so let's do 1. Put a 2. Total is 3. Let's do a 3. Total should be 6. It is. Okay, and then I say -1 to exit. And oh, silly me. That is because I'm putting out on the label the count. So it did work. It did work. I just was looking at the wrong information. So, I mean, I should probably put a label for that. So let's make a label for the total. I should put things in front of these, of course, make it a lot more readable, but just for quickness here and not taking too much time, let's do LBL total. So no code, I can say the me.l total next equals total. Okay, and I know it works. I know it got 6 and it didn't count the last one, so that's good. So now to make an average, pretty simple. I just divide those two, right? So again, okay, let's try and I guess make this a little bit longer and add a new label down here for the average. Okay, so LBL average. Okay, I'm back in the program. You know, I could make a variable here, I guess. Dim average. I guess it should be as a double or a decimal, whatever you want to say. I don't really need to give an initial value, but maybe I'll just do that for fun. And then after the loop is over, that's when I would calculate the average because I wouldn't bother in the middle. I only have the results that I need afterwards. So I could say the total by the count. that should give me the average. And then I can put that in my average label, a text equals average. Okay, so let's run this, let's see what happens. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, -1 to exit. It says there are 3 numbers, that's true. Total is 6, that's true. The average is 2 because it was total of 6 divided by 3, which is 2. So it seems to work. I should probably test it with more values, but I'm pretty sure that's working. Yeah, if you really want to test if you want to find the highest number, what I could do is I could make a variable dim highest maybe as an integer, and I'll set it to a really low number. Like I don't have any negative values, so I'll just set it to 0 to begin with. So in my loop, after I've got the number and I know it's not the flag, what I could do before or after this doesn't matter, say if the new number that I just typed in, right, if that's bigger than the currently highest, which is at the moment 0 the first time, so the first number should be bigger than that. If I type a 1, for example, then the new highest is going to be reset to be the number, because that was bigger than my currently highest. And if I keep doing that in the loop, it'll keep replacing, if the numbers are higher, it'll replace highest with that number. And by the end, okay, let's just do a label yet. Okay, so let's make another label. Oh my gosh, so it's getting a bit long here. Add a new label. Let's call it average, or sorry, highest or maximum. L highest. Okay, and then end again is where I would say me dot L highest text equals the highest variable. Okay, so now if I run it, click it, I type 1, 2, 3, 99, 1. Okay, 99 is my highest, and it got I had 4 numbers. Apparently the total was 105. When I divide 105 by 4, I get 26.25 as a real number, and the highest was 99. So that seems to work. You'd probably do the opposite if you want to do the minimum value. Trick is you'd have to initialize minimum to a very high number so that it gets replaced. There is actually a better way to do that, but I think that's good enough for now. Video is kind of long enough already, and really that's all you would need to do to calculate an average. I like this program though because it uses a loop, a while loop, conditional loop. It also uses if statements. It also uses a counter, an accumulator, and an if statement. So it's got a lot in it, and it's a pretty common thing to want to do. So yeah, it's a good problem to know how to solve. It's even got a constant and a flag. So yeah, this is usually a test question that I might give to my students because it tests their knowledge of all sorts of different things. So hope that helps.